Okay, on example 2, if you look at this function, we've got an open circle on our min here, and then we have a closed circle, so we need to keep that in mind when we go to write our domain. So the x value that corresponds to this point on the graph is -6, because that's what our domain means. Open circle means we're going to get a parentheses. And then if we go to the right hand side, this is going to be correspond to the x value of 5 with a closed circle. So we're going to get a bracket for that one. So then range, remember, is your y value. So we're going to look at the lowest point that this graph goes, but we want to come over to the y value at that point. So -5, again, that open circle is going to get us a parentheses. And then the highest this graph goes is this coordinate right here, but if we come over to the corresponding y, it's going to be 2. This point is included on our graph, so that's going to get a bracket at 2. So for our local minimum, if you look, we have a local minimum at, let's call this -1, -1, always parentheses, or we could write that at y equals -1. And remember, that's where it changes direction. So then our local max is going to be actually 2 turning places. Okay, so we got -4, 2. Or we have this point here, which is at 2, 1. Now, if you look at this -4, 2, or the y value, y equals 2, that's going to be your absolute max. I'm going to abbreviate at y equals 2, because that's the absolute highest place this graph, or highest point this graph will go. Okay, intervals of increasing. So again, we're looking for where is it going uphill from left to right. So I'm just going to label again. So here's increasing. We would start falling here. So all this would be decreasing. You're going to turn and start increasing again. We have another turning point, and we would start decreasing, going downhill. And you can also think of it as slope. This will be positive slope, negative slope, positive slope, negative slope. So this the intervals for increasing, remember, we're only looking at x values. So again, this starts at -6, and it's going to increase into the x value -4. Or here, you're going to start again at the turning point, x value is -1, and it's going to increase into the next turning point, which is x value of 2. So then let's write our decreasing intervals. So we're going to start here at x equals -4, and it's going to decrease down until x equals -1. And then our other interval where it starts to decrease is at the x value -2, or +2, sorry, I said the wrong thing. And then it's going to decrease until this x value 5. Again, if that were an arrow, we would say positive infinity, but since that's a closed point, we're just going to end it at 5. So positive again means where is it above the x-axis, so I'll highlight that for you again. So we're above the x-axis here, we're above the x-axis there. Again, you're only using x values, so from -5 to -3, or from 0 to 4. Decreasing is going to be where is it below the x-axis. So we got 3 intervals of decreasing that's below the x-axis. So we're going to start here at -6. Again, if that were an arrow, it would be negative infinity to the x value -5. And then we've got -3 to 0. And then the last one is from 4 to 5. Again, both of these always just using parentheses and x values. So then real quick, let's add in our zeros. So we have one here at x equals -5. We got x equals -3. X equals 0. And then one more at x equals 4. Okay, example 3. This time if you look at the ends, we have arrows on the ends. So for your x values, that means this function is going down forever, but it's also getting wider in both directions as it decreases. So our domain is going to be all real numbers. I'm going to abbreviate that. But in interval notation, we'll write that as -infinity to +infinity. And if you wanted to add that on your graph, again, just to kind of help you visualize what's going on, that may be helpful. So then for your range, you always start with the lowest point. So these arrows mean that it's going to -infinity. So our lowest point's -infinity. Remember, the infinities always get parentheses. The highest y value is going to be at -1, and that point is included on the graph, so it's going to get a bracket. So then local min, there are no minimums to this graph. So when that's the case, you're just going to put none. And then maximum, well, there's only one, which makes this an absolute max, and that coordinate is at -2, -1. Or remember, we could just write y equals -1, and I'm just going to put out to the side, this is an absolute max. So increasing from left to right, so if you start on the left-hand side of your graph and we come over, we would go uphill. So positive slope increasing, and then at the turning point, all this would go down, so that would be decreasing. X values only, so arrow means -infinity over 2, -2. And then we're going to turn for our decreasing, so x value is -2. That arrow is going to take us to +infinity. So then positive, where is it above the x-axis? This graph's not above the x-axis anywhere, so you're just going to write none. No intervals for positive. And then negative, the whole graph is below the x-axis. So you're just going to write -infinity to +infinity. And then for zeros, there are no zeros. Okay, so you're just going to write none. No real zeros anyways. We'll learn about that a little later on. Okay, so then in example 4, notice arrows on the end. So I'm going to come out here, -infinity, positive, positive, negative, just to help us visually. So for your x values, we're going to -infinity and +infinity. For our range, positive and negative because of the arrows again. Makes it pretty easy when it's like that. So then local min, that would be here. Okay, so that's at -2, -4. Or we could just say at y equals -4. And then your local max is going to be here at 2, 0. Or y equals 0 if we want to write the y value. In this case, guys, there's no absolute max or absolute min because of these arrows on the end, okay? So then intervals of increasing and decreasing, left to right, don't let this arrow confuse you. If I come in from the left, we're going downhill. So this is all decreasing. And then we're going to turn, we're going to start going uphill. So all this would be increasing, turn again. All this is going to be decreasing. So if you'll label it, it'll help you when you start looking at your x values. So for my x value, I'm going to start out here because of this arrow. I'm going to start out here at -infinity, and we're going to come down to the x value at x equals -2. So -2. Oh wait, I just did that wrong. oh no, sorry. So -2, I was talking about decreasing. Here, this is increasing. -2, we're going to increase to +2. Sorry about that. Now let's talk about decreasing. So we're going to start at -infinity. We're going to decrease down to this turning point, which has an x value of -2. Or we're going to start here at +2, and we're going to go out to +infinity. So then our positive intervals, where is this above the x-axis? So really only there. So this piece right here, so x values for that is going to be -infinity to -4. And then for where you're decreasing, we have to be careful here. It gets a little tricky. So you have this portion, and then we have this portion. But if you look at x, we have zeros. So I'm going to jump ahead just a second. We have zeros at x equals -4 and x equals +2. So if you're on the x-axis, that's neither positive nor negative. So we're going to describe this portion. So x values of -4 to +2, or from 2 to infinity, it's below the x-axis. So this pretty much wraps up the key features of functions, and later on throughout the semester you're going to learn about a lot of these functions more specifically.